James Dorsey, who's an award-winning journalist, and he's also a senior fellow at the Rajaratnam School of International Studies, and joins us now from Singapore. Good to speak to you. So, Saudi Arabia has not just started financing terrorism and money laundering, so why take this decision now?
I think the issue is several-fold. One, it's less about the legislation itself and much more about the implementation. If you look at what the Financial Action Task Force, which is an international watchdog, anti-money laundering and terrorism finance watchdog, has said about Saudi Arabia in recent months, it has been that Saudi implementation has focused more on domestic activity and less on transnational activity. And so what's happening, among other things, is that Fatah, and by implication also now the European Union, is saying that, for example, the raising of funds for militant groups, the raising of funds in the kingdom itself for militant groups outside of the kingdom is not being properly controlled. And by the same token, transnational criminal networks are able to operate within the kingdom and transfer money simply because the focus until now has been domestic.
So will it have a serious impact if it's approved by the Commission on Saudi Arabia?
Well, I think it has an impact on several levels. One, it has an impact, as your correspondent already described, in the way that European banks will be dealing with Saudi Arabia and Saudi institutions and Saudi transactions. But it also has a political impact. With other words, this is the country where the majority of the 9/11 hijackers came from, and where since then the Saudis have positioned themselves as a leading country in the countering of political violence. On top of that, the whole crisis in the Gulf, with other words, the rift between Qatar on the one hand and Saudi Arabia and the United Arab Emirates on the other hand, focuses on the allegations that Qatar is funding terrorism, and so to be charged or to be accused of not being stringent in controls of funding of militancy and money laundering is for the Saudis a difficult political position to be in.
So, James, on one hand, we have the EU taking this stance against Saudi Arabia, but on the other hand, in the White House, the top man on the job is backing Saudi Arabia. How do you read this?
Well, I think that we've got to wait and see how things play out. So, with other words, you have the White House indeed supporting the Saudis and trying to shield them. But that's not the case in the U.S. Congress. And the moves in the U.S. Congress have yet to play out. So I think we're going to see a situation in which the White House is going to be under increasing pressure to try and get the Saudis to be more cooperative and more responsive in their answers. And obviously, the White House is going to resist what the Congress does. But that's going to be an evolution of several rounds before we know how that plays out, really.
Well, that's all the time we have. Thank you very much for that insight, James Dorsey.